right, man, Footballville. Today, we got the crib. Frank the Crib from South Florida, man. He put together the list. Top 50 this, top 25 that, top 3 best cooks in Dade. He just put together a list, man. But he can talk about a broad thing. He talk about all type of football. He can talk about high school football, college. So we're going to get into a lot of stuff. We got a new segment coming called This or That. We about to get into it, bro. Listen, we're down here in South Florida, man. Beautiful South Florida, man. If it's snowing where you at, man, that's on you. Footballville, Villains, man. We out here. So you think us media companies, us as the community, can hype the kids up so much to where University of Miami or even Florida, they're stupid for not taking the kid. 100%. You don't think we're doing it? You don't think we're doing enough for certain kids?
For certain kids.
Explain to me. Talk to me about that.
I think that there are kids, and we just talked about, like, the Carlo Donaldson is a perfect example of that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we never gave him his flowers the way we could have when he was down here, right? Like, people liked him. Yes, people gave him credit, right? Mm-hmm. But was he ever viral, right? Did we ever give him a chance to be the man? You know what I'm saying? Or was it because he went to Gulliver? Right? I think certain kids are in certain situations, right? Yeah. And people don't give them credit because they're in that situation. How about we just look at the body of work? Right? Like, there are a number of kids that are going to be coming up, right? Where I think we have to stop questioning kids so much and start just giving them credit. It's always, and for you and I, it works, right? Because we're in media, and debate creates controversy and clicks and views. Right. But we don't need to do that, essentially, as a community. I'm not talking about you and I. I'm talking about just the people in our community that we don't control our platforms on how successful it is, right? We can grind it out. Right. We can do all these things. We can make posts. We can make graphics. We can make videos. But the people that watch it are the people that make it successful, right? And what do? Most of the time, we put out there what the people want to see, right? What the people have a demand for, right? And we try to uncover our gems where we can, right? But people have to be open-minded past Miami Northwestern, Miami Central, St. Thomas Aquinas, American Heritage.
You think that's all? You think that's all?
I see it all the time with people make comments underneath posts. And people
make behind the camera, he says that a lot.
People make comments underneath posts all the time. What has he done against this school? He is 15 years old. Why don't we give him credit?
Okay, so let's get in it. Nitro, right?
Yeah.
At Somerset. What was his stats? What did he do?
I think he had over 1,000 all-purpose yards last year. Played both sides of the ball. Year before that, same thing, right? I've watched him play in person. He is at 5'6", 5'7" as an 8th grader. Was playing technically sound as any corner in South Florida. I went to go watch him play, and I was genuinely impressed, because you hear the little bit of hype that came around him from Little League, and stuff like that. But there's not enough people that know who Nitro Baker is.
What grade is he in?
He's in 9th grade.
He's at Somerset, right?
He's at Somerset right now.
So what do you say to the people who say, man, that's against Somerset? That's at Somerset. Who's Somerset play? That's the first thing they're going to say, right? We know Nitro, and we know who his dad is.
Yeah, except my argument is this, right? We've had plenty of kids that have been at a Miami Springs, for example, right? Yeah. And then transferred to a Central and were a star. But we waited until they became a star until their senior year. No, but I'm saying, like, there's like,
it's like 2 or 3 of them, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them, right? Like, there are kids that have transferred from a smaller opportunity. Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader are 2 kids that are like that, right? We kind of stopped talking about them, and they redeemed themselves and they earned their flowers, but people were questioning them at Pace. People were questioning them. Right, and it wasn't like they weren't doing well, right? Like they were freshmen,
right?
They were babies, right? And I think we want instant gratification in high school football. Like, we need this now. When we look back like 10 years ago, it was a rarity to see a star sophomore. Do you remember when James Cook was a sophomore and he was a star, right? Like, that was a big deal, and he wasn't even the starter, right? Like, but we gave him his flowers. Now, right, we make it so tough on these kids in this modern social media age to be successful, right? Jaylen Brown, for me, is a perfect example of that. And, right, was he a perfect player? Absolutely not. But people came at him viciously right? For two things. He didn't go to Miami, and because he played at Gulliver Prep, right? And I don't think that's right. We forced a kid out of South Florida. As a community, we forced Jaylen Brown out of South Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just because of his mom and the proximity to home from his mom that got him LSU. It was that, when did we support Jaylen Brown in South Florida? Other than the talking heads. I'm talking about as a community.
When you say support, you mean as in, give me an example.
There's constant critique. Mm-hmm. Constant critique of 14 to 18-year-old boys. Do you remember what you and I were doing at 14 to 18 years old?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and obviously we weren't the exceptional athletes, right? So the expectations aren't as high. But still, at the end of the day, man, we have to put credence on the fact that they are kids. They are kids.
I think when you start talking about sports, Frank, you're talking about emotions. And when you're talking about emotions, then you're not talking about thinking and being logical. But at the same time, we're in South Florida. We've seen the bar is so high, right?
Is it though? How many years was Teddy Bridgewater a starter at Miami Northwestern?
2, I think.
How many years was Ja'Cory Harris?
But stop right there. But what do you mean by that? Like, you say, why was he? What do you mean? Get into that.
We compare these kids to legends, right? Without actually comparing the resumes.
So you saying because he wasn't a starter for 2 years, that means what? I mean, he was only a starter for 2 years. That means what? He didn't start.
I'm saying that we gave players the benefit of the doubt of development. Not that long ago. And we don't do that now.
Well, Teddy, as a freshman, was on the park. He played youth football as a freshman. He could have started at half of the schools in Dade County,
but he didn't.
But
there was a development process.
And then when he went as a sophomore, it was kind of like, do we put Teddy at quarterback or wide receiver? So they would put him at wide receiver, and they would let the other kid play quarterback. And then it would kind of back and forth. But you're saying Ja'Cory sat and waited. He was behind my cousin. He sat and he waited his turn.
How about Jerry Jeudy? Do you remember Jerry Jeudy at Monarch? Who talked about Jerry Jeudy at Monarch?
Well, I remember Jerry Jeudy.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, we gave these kids the benefit of the doubt of development. We saw the talent for what it was, and we didn't kill them for having a bad game, right? We didn't kill them for having a bad week as a 14 or 15-year-old. Now we are on these kids. Like, I talk to people about Justice Fitzpatrick. I
think we did kill them, but I don't think we had. You wasn't able to hear everybody's voice, bro. We didn't have Twitter. You wasn't able to hear everybody's voice. That's the problem. The problem is that you can hear everybody's opinion now.
Yeah.
That's why I turned off my notification years ago.
Yeah.
Because it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
I do the same thing.
That's the problem. The problem is that you can hear what the guys in the liquor store are saying now while you're sitting in your kitchen, because they're right there on and you can read it.
So then does the community have a responsibility to watch what they say?
It's sports. It's not going to happen. It's sports.
So then we question as a community why certain kids don't make it, and then sometimes we got to look in the mirror.
I don't know if you can correct people. I mean, him not making it just has to start in his home.
Yeah, you say that, but we see a lot of kids in 2-parent homes and supportive households that were really good athletes that didn't make it, and it's from a lot of noise.
When you say make it, what do you mean? To college? Because nobody makes it to the pros.
No.
Nobody goes to the league.
I'm saying success.
Nobody makes it there.
I'm saying we have kids that are a lot of times, I talk to kids that are broken before they go to college, man.
Because of football?
Because of how people have perceived them and talked about them and created narratives about them and pushed this story about them as a child, man. It's tough. It's tough, man. And I think, and I'm on a soapbox right now a little bit, right? I'm on a soapbox a little bit right now, but
I don't know what happened, dog. You talk to me. It's okay, dog. What happened?
I gotta coach his heart, right? So for me, I post these rankings and stuff like that, and I feel like a lot of times it's the adults that have the voice in the room and not the kids that I feel like need to take a moment of self-reflection, right? And being around 7-on-7, like, I see how everybody has a quick opinion of a kid in a 7-on-7 game, right? And I think we're not as quick to give kids their credit and tell them what their worth is when they do it, right? So I think that's one thing, that we got a platform and sometimes.
There's people though, man.
Yeah, I think that's people.
Before somebody pats you on the back, they'll definitely tell you
but
you got a booger in your nose or something like that.
I think any progress and any growth of change starts from people with a voice saying something about it.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe this is the last time somebody talks about it, right? But I think, and I get it. South Florida can be toxic at times, right? And it always has been toxic, right? But I think that we got to look at certain situations, right, on how we handle things, and not put everybody into the certain box into what they need to be. And I think that we need to start giving people more flowers before they get to college, right? And being like, because people want to jump on Miami for not taking a kid, right? Mm-hmm. Where was everybody supporting that kid, right? Like, DeCarlo Donaldson he was a freshman All-American.
Yeah.
But we barely talked.
He did nothing but ball out for Gulliver.
But here's the crazy part. Everybody wants to talk about Gulliver. He was a baller at Hialeah. Mm-hmm. Was a baller at Hialeah.
Yeah.
And that kid had like 200 followers on Twitter.
I think it's too many of them, bro. I think it's too many of them, and I think everybody. The way I've always looked at it at Footballville was like, if you were exceptional, you know what I'm saying, we caught eyes on you. But everybody gets their turn because it is a lot. We're not sitting in Iowa, you know what I'm saying, where there's only one 5-star come through in the last 5 years. It's a lot of kids out here, Frank.
We got a lot of people here, though. We got a lot of people in South Florida, man.
I don't know what you thinking about. You just did top 50 wide receivers in what? Dayton Broward?
I did top 50 players, yeah. And Dayton Broward for the 2026 class.
Right. So you did top 50 players. Who you had number one?
Okay, Tony.
Yeah.
And again, right, I don't want to
Wait a slow down. Which class we talking about?
2026.
Okay, so 2026 you did top
50.
Top 50. Is that hard to do? Or is it just you keeping records and then you just sit down one day with a coffee and
it takes months, right? It takes months. Over the course of last season, I've recorded as every single freshman name that I've come across, right? Whether that was on this guy's platform, right? And I give credit to everybody that has covered this, the Larry Bluesteins, the Jerry Rising Stars, right? The everybody, right? The Rivals 24/7, right? Everybody has at some point has talked about somebody that I have put into this list, right? So it's a conglomerate of information from everybody that I've put into an Excel spreadsheet, right? So I have a list of it, and then I break down each kid for what they did last year. And obviously, they're freshmen, so I have to put it on a weighted scale, right, of he's in this situation, so it's a little bit different, right? Their recruitment is at this point. I see this amount of talent, this amount of potential. So I rank the kids strictly based off who I think is the best kids in the class, right? And that's a tough thing to do because it's strictly one guy's opinion, right? It's one guy's opinion, and it's 100% not going to be right. That's one thing I want to say right now, right? People are going to be like, what does he know? You're 100% right. What do I know, right? But the one thing I want to say is it's just my opinion that I put out there, right? This is not stamped as Bible, right? This isn't, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not telling Twan he's wrong. I'm not telling anybody that they're wrong on their opinion on who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 50, right? And I always try to tell people that there are 51 kids that make this list. There is the 50 that made it, and then there's the one guy that you thought should have, right? Because that's just how it is. And I'm gonna miss somebody like here's something. This is an honest mistake on my part. And this is a slip up on me. MacArthur has a 2026 quarterback who's already played 2 years of varsity, Florentino Lopez. Mm-hmm. He's already got varsity production. He's 6'2", 215 pounds. He's a good player. Plays on a 7-on-7 varsity team already, right? I didn't put him on the list because I missed him. And he's a kid I've known since he was a baby.
But that happens to even the bigger. It happens to the big guys.
And it happens.
We ain't gonna say no names.
So that's why
the big guys miss.
So that's why listen, we all do our due diligence on what we do, right? Mm-hmm. But there's things that are gonna be missed, right? Like I got kids feeling like, and it's not a trying, right? It's not a trying, but overall, I just thought these were the best kids in South Florida, right? And there are going to be kids that rise up, And when they do rise up, I'm going to try to give them the credit as much as I can to redeem myself from my misses.
So I think I got it, Twan. I think I get it now. I put it together now. I think I know what this problem is. It's that, huh? You just put that out, and you're getting everybody's opinions, and you got kids on there that they don't know.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. You know what I'm saying?
And there's kids that I don't know.
Right, but I see where it all coming from now. I get it. It came full circle. Dog, so the night before, are you sitting in front of the thing like, damn, I know when I put this out.
The amount of changes on that list. Just the hour before, I'm calling people. Yo, what you think? I'm trying my best to get it as close to solid as I possibly can. Right. And there are definitely a lot of people in South Florida that I respect, and I try to call coaches and ask them their opinions on kids, right? Like, how did this kid do this year from outside of his highlight tape, right? Tell me, or coaches that played against him, like, yo, do you remember this kid? Right. And I take that into account. And yes, there are so many changes. Right? That's just how it is. And I think it comes from just a place of, I genuinely have a lot of love for South Florida football and these kids. Like I told you, I have a coach's heart. So for me...
What is a coach's heart?
If you haven't coached before, there's a relationship that you build through just the time that you spend through this game of football that creates a bond that is different than anything.
Mm-hmm. With the kids?
With kids, right? And you and I both know we spend so much time with so many kids, right? Just through your interviews, you've learned who kids are on a way that you never would have before, right? I've built bonds with kids through my time with DEF CON's a perfect example, right? I've gone on trips with them. I've seen these kids from a lens that college coaches haven't, right? Like the regular fan hasn't. And you begin to love these kids for the people that they are, not so much the players that they are. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that there's an aspect to it where it's like, there's a kid that I have on the ranking that I want to put higher because I just genuinely have love for that kid, but sometimes you can't. So you're at a tough place. Because you've built bonds with these kids. I mean, I'm 4 years just into the crib. And when I tell you the amount of phone calls and the amount of conversations I have with parents, coaches, players, it's a lot, bro. Like outside of the we turn our notifications off, right? But you can't turn your phone off all the way, right? There's always somebody that wants to talk to you about something, get your opinion on this, ask you something about that.
So I remember when last year, Hurricane fan got to meet some kids from the Hurricanes. They actually got to talk to him. And he came back and he said, man, I don't say any names. Blah, blah, blah. Man, them kids cool, man. Like, they cool, man. I didn't know like that, man. And his thing, what he was trying to say was, man, I got to stop, like, insulting them like that. They cool kids. They down to earth. And I asked him, I say, what you thought they were? Droids or something? Like, what did you think they're kids? But that's when we go back to the fandom thing. Like, with the fan, when you get into the fandom thing and the emotions, you're not thinking like a parent. But to bring you back down, let me ask you something about your child. Then you come back down. Yeah. Right. They're kids. But you don't look at them like that when they're wearing the logo of the school you're rooting for, and you're not thinking.
Actually, Kelly is in his second year at Miami. He's still 18 years old.
Right. A child.
He's a child.
A child. Right. A child. So listen, man, we're going to get into some other stuff, man. Y'all make sure y'all like, share, comment. We got the crib here, man. He just told y'all who the best top 50 2026 kids is. Call DM him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, big thing in football recently was the combine. Combine, everybody dreamed to make it to the combine and get their shot. A lot of players get left off. It was an offensive lineman, Voorhees, tore his ACL. Said he wanted to still do the bench press and bench press 225 38 times. But my question is this. Should offensive linemen be running the 40-yard dash crew?
I don't think they should. I mean, I don't think there's any benefit to it, right? I think as fans, we like to see how fast fat guys can run. But outside of that, right, there's the one measurement that you can take away from that 40 is the 10-yard splits, right? 20-yard split, right? because you never see an offensive lineman running 40 yards downfield unless it's like a random play like we saw.
We saw
Donaldson
chasing it.
Yeah, like remember Donaldson like when he was at Central running 40 yards downfield getting a pancake. Like how often does that happen? So I don't think it's a required drill. And if I had a son that was an offensive lineman, I would probably tell him not to run.
Yeah.
Maybe they can just contain it to a measurement that shows explosion in a 10-yard split.
Right. I mean, offensive lineman, I don't think it makes sense either. But I've been on the record of saying that even skilled guys running the 40 doesn't have much to do with actually playing the game of football. You know what I'm saying? It's a track event. It's how fast are you? What's your skill set in running this event and vice playing football when we know a small space is cutting left or right, and we see guys that aren't fast at 40s that are great at playing football all the time.
The 40 has become a science.
Right.
The 40 has become how well can you get your start, right? How well can you run the 40? It's not even how fast. Like there might be a guy that runs a 4.3, but he might not be faster than the guy that runs a 4.5, right? He just might be faster in that race.
Right.
So
it's a skill. It's a skill.
Yeah,
it's a skill.
That's a skill that you will never use.
Right.
That you will never use
right.
ever in the game of football. And yes, are there projections sometimes where we see a guy run an incredible 40? Absolutely. But there are so many times where we see guys run incredible 40s and it means absolutely nothing because it didn't project to the NFL, right? Like we've had guys run 4.2 40s at Miami and end up not doing anything in the NFL.
Right.
But we've also had guys that went and ran 4.5s and 4.6s and ended up being some of the best players to come out of Miami. Like
it's track and field.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's track and field. Listen, you do the transfer thing. I don't know how you keep track. At this point, people are sending you transfers, aren't they?
Daily. I put out a post the other day. I said, if you don't have stats, if you don't have film or offers, don't text me about a transfer. We don't, because I think sometimes we have turned transfers into promotion.
Yeah.
Part of that's on me. Part of that's on me. But I think there's also a positive to the transfer post. When was the last time you saw respect my decision post, an iPhone note on Twitter? You don't see it anymore.
Wow, what happened to it?
In South Florida, I eliminated that in a way.
You took place on the respect my decision.
Respect my decision, and I think it was a good thing.
Hey, what did that crib say?
Because we saw kids thanking their coaches for developing them, and then saying, but I'm going to this school. So it would be like trying the coaches, but we don't see that anymore. Now kids will make a graphic being like, this is the next chapter. And it's simplified. It's a simplified process. It's a cool little graphic. People like to see it. But I think that there are times where kids are chasing the transfer because they're not being promoted by a certain school. Right? And they think this is a chance to get their name out there. It shouldn't be used for that.
I guess so, huh?
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way. So you ever had a coach call you and be like, man, Mac ain't going nowhere. What you talking about, crib?
Oh, all the time. Yo, you got to take that down. You got to take that down. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. And then they get the bad news, and you get and I don't get a phone call back, right? And then, or there's a situation where like a kid will tell me, and this is why like I've had to kind of hit up coaches when kids are hitting me up from transfers now. They tell me they're going to the school.
Right.
Like Central, like there were probably 20 kids at the beginning of the transfer window that were telling me that they were going to Central. And I was calling Jube, I'm like, Jube, you didn't tell me about this kid. I don't know who this kid is.
You actually have to confirm?
I have to confirm.
Yeah.
It's become a crazy process. And what people think, like, listen, let's not get it twisted. There is recruiting in South Florida, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of times these kids are making these decisions without even consulting a coach. They'll talk to their buddy on the team. And then the boy's like, yo, we got this spot. You come over here.
They didn't even talk to no adults.
They didn't even talk to an adult. They didn't even pull their transcripts out yet.
Do you question them? Is there a questionnaire, the application they got to fill out or something?
I'm like, are you in the school officially?
Right.
And then, sometimes, I'll 99% of the time I'm trying to confirm with the coach. Now, there are certain times where some of the coaches don't want to touch it. They're like, hey, man, I don't want anything to do with that.
But a lot of times they don't know, though. You have to call the right coach, right? Like a lot of times, like...
you got to call a decision maker.
Right.
You got to call a decision maker. And it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy down here right now.
So 2023, man, give me your top 5 most impactful transfers.
Armando Blunt's got to be the top of the list.
Talk to me why.
5-star. Number 3 player in the country. Ruben Bain leaves, you get Armando Blunt, right? It just continues the trend of elite defensive fronts for Miami Central and putting pressure on the quarterback for everybody they play. And they're going to be playing a loaded schedule this year. Right. So they kind of need that. And I think the development that he's going to get with Coach Maul at Miami Central is only going to make his game that much better. James Randall, who transferred from Mainland to Homestead, is going to be a big one. He's top 15 receiver in the country, 6'1", really good player, good stats last year, was one of the best players for Mainland. I think he's going to combine with Cortez Mills to create one of the best wide receiver duos in South Florida. J.C. Evans to Central, another Central transfer. But when you lose a legend like Lights Out, right, a kid who's a 3-time state champion, right, one of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen in South Florida history, it's hard to fill those shoes.
Right.
So they went and got a kid from Texas. And honestly, he was already coming down here. People think like Central has this NIL and they went to go get a quarterback from Texas. This kid was already coming down. Right? Like there was conversations with a number of schools, right, for him to come down. He's coming down on his own. Family is from South Florida, right? So this isn't like as crazy of a move as people think. But I think, and he's going to be battling it out with A.J. Smith, who transferred from Killeen,
right,
too.
It's a 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
right.
But J.C. Evans, I mean, if you talk to people, that's the freak athlete that is supposed to slot in as a starting quarterback right now.
6'5"?
He's like 6'5", around 4.6 40, right? Had his team with like a 9-4 record last year in Texas. So he's a good player. We'll see how it happens. If A.J. Smith became the starter, I would not be surprised as well, though.
Right.
2 other ones, Stacey Gage to St. Thomas Aquinas. That one blew up, man. That one blew up. I've actually posted it without collaborating with Stacey. Stacey's like, nah, let's collaborate on that. That hit almost like 5,000 likes.
Did it?
Yeah, that popped. And combining him with Jordan Lyle, you have 2 potential 1,000-yard backs at St. Thomas Aquinas next year on top of James Madison and Chance Robinson.
Stacey Gage, what, 3rd school?
It's like his 3rd school.
Like 3rd school.
But remember, he left IMG. Once that coaching transition happened, a lot of kids left IMG. Right. And, I think things didn't work out as well at Wharton, which is not home for him, essentially. Right. He's a Tampa kid, but like,
he went viral.
He did go viral. But I think this is a good spot for him. I think he was looking for a home to be developed, right, in a structured environment, getting ready for college.
It's perfect.
It's perfect for that, right?
It's perfect for Gage. Now, who's the last one?
The last one, and this is 2 transfers. This is the twin defensive ends from Jackson to Norland.
To my alma mater, Miami, Norland.
And I think this is huge because Norland had an elite offense last year, right? EJ put up huge numbers. You had Javen Simpkins and Isaiah Scott and an elite speed group of receivers, right? Like you had a bunch of 4-5 and faster kids on that receiving group. What they needed was a defense, and they added more than just those 2 kids. They added 2 of the best pass rushers in the country. I don't think people understand. These are another 2 kids that I think deserve more flowers than they get.
They do.
Right? Because they are 6'4", 240 pounds. And we have watched them play. They are freaks of nature with production, both over 12 sacks last year, both over 12 sacks the year before that. They're Tunsil kids. We know Tunsil has stamped those kids. And we know that Tunsil's a tough critic, right, when it comes to football talent in South Florida. And he has stamped those 2 babies, and they are elite players, and I think that they're going to have a huge impact.
What are they going to do with the other 2 twins that were there already?
I think they're playing some linebacker and rushing the pass a little bit. Listen, the defensive front, like we saw with Miami this year, you can rotate it and still be successful. The one thing Miami had last year that was good was the defensive line. Yeah. Let's say that, right? And the rotations worked, right? We've seen in the NFL, right, guys rotate out. You can have upwards of 4 guys, 5 guys with 6+ sacks, right? And those guys are also 20-25 kids, so they'll be all right.
And now the Northern defense is littered with D1 kids. Now it's like to go with the offense, like you said. That's all right list, man. So most top impactful 2023 transfers from the crib rivals. All right, Combine NFL draft coming up, man. Give me your top 3 quarterbacks.
I'm going Roll Tide 1. Okay, we're going Bryce Young. Right, I don't care if he's 5'10". Right, he's miniature Patrick Mahomes to me. right? Then you got C.J. Stroud, the most accurate quarterback in the draft. And people are going to call me a little crazy here. I think he's going to have like a Matt Ryan type career.
Really?
I think he's going to have a Matt Ryan type career. Not a runner, but he showed he's more athletic than a Matt Ryan, right?
Right.
In that Georgia game, he was running around a little bit, but he does not want to run. That's not what he wants to do.
Right.
The same arguments we used to have with Jacory, like, dog, just run. Just run a little bit, right? It's the same thing with C.J. Stroud, but I think he's going to be really good. And then I got Anthony Richardson.
You got Anthony Richardson third? What do you think the hype is on Anthony Richardson? He didn't have a great career at Florida. Not what we expected.
You ever seen him in person?
Yeah.
Yeah,
why?
He's a big boy, man.
I saw him in person when he was a kid. He's from Miami.
Yeah.
I saw him in person when he was a kid. I saw him as a freshman, looked like RoboCop with a football in his hand, and I don't think he lived up to what we thought he would. But now they're looking at him and they're looking at the measurements, and the quarterback position is changing. You were just talking about Stroud not wanting to run. It is changing. These coaches want you to run for a first down, 7 yards on the third down to get them a first down and keep them their job. They don't want to say it, but they do. But what's the hype on him? Like, what do you see?
4.40. Yeah. It's about the same size as Cam Newton, right? He can throw the ball like 70 yards in the air. Effortlessly in the combine was throwing the ball 60 yards.
Right.
On the money, right? I think it's tough, right? Because we all want people to be perfect, right? We want players to be perfect. And he's not, right? He's got to get more accurate. I think if he gets this right situation, he's going to be developed, right? But we saw Jalen Hurts just go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I think the NFL, I don't think the NFL always take in what college did with a kid. Because I think the NFL is different. First of all, they're going to use you different. And they see it different. You're not going to class anymore. You're just doing football. It's your job now. So I think sometimes the NFL don't even look at what a kid's stats or necessarily. They look at potential sometimes.
I think it's going to be fun to see if Florida and Ohio State can ever have a good quarterback.
I think he's successful in the NFL.
I hope so because I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good kid. Like they said, he killed it in the interviews, right? So any narrative anybody has because he's got tattoos, right, and he doesn't have a tape and a buzz cut, right? That's all thrown out the window because he has killed it in the interviews. He's killed it with the media, right? And we've never heard anything really bad about him coming out as a player. Yeah. So I think overall he fits everything you want as a quarterback. He's just got to win. Right. That's the only thing now.
2019, Netflix reaches out to me and say, hey, we want to license some of your video of a kid that we were thinking about putting on QB1. And they were like, he's in Gainesville. I was like, he's in Gainesville? They were like, yeah, but he grew up in Miami and you have video of him, Anthony Richardson. And they sent me a link to the video. So he grew up here. And not real well, he was born here. Then obviously left and went to Gainesville at some point in time. But yeah, Netflix, and I thought about it. That was 2019. I started thinking about it. I was like, Netflix did call me about Anthony Richardson. And now he's, you know what I'm saying, now he's on his way to the NFL. And it seems to happen so fast, man.
Oh, man. We're going to be talking about the Jeremiah Smiths, the JoJo Traders, right? Like, they're going to be talking about them in the combine. And we'd be like, yo, we watched these kids like when they were growing up, right? Like, like for me, it's crazy. Like Chop's son, right? Yeah. Little Rob, right? I've known Little Rob since Little Rob was like 4 years old. You know, now he's in high school. Kid has 2 offers. Like for me, it's a crazy experience to watch these kids grow up because I'm still a young guy, right? And, or like I coached against Devin Bush, right, when he was in high school, I'm like, dog, this guy's already a veteran in the NFL. Like,
it goes fast, bro.
It goes fast.
It goes fast. It goes really fast. I remember watching Pat Surtain's son go to Bama, and it was like he just went to Bama 3 years, didn't get in trouble, didn't. You know what I'm saying? He was gone. He was out there. He's in the NFL. I don't know if life starts going faster as you start getting older. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But when you start reflecting and looking back, you're like, God damn, James Cook is playing against Dalvin Cook. So there's his top three, man. Top three quarterbacks. Top three quarterbacks, man. Footballville, crib, man. We out here. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's from here, man. Grew up in Pompano, moved to Boynton Beach. Played high school football here. When I saw him play, man, I knew. And that's probably the only kid, one of the few kids that I ever said, listen, bro, I knew he was in high school. Like I never buzzed on him. I knew he was in high school. I once told somebody Michael Vick was sitting on Louisville bench before he ever even got in the game. Right now he's in the NFL and he's waiting to be read up. And usually when the quarterback shows potential, they win games, they reel him up. Like this is your quarterback. It's hard
you don't even get to the fifth-year option.
They don't. Lamar Jackson's somewhere in Pompano right now waiting to be offered, you know what I'm saying, or a franchise or whatever they're going to do to him. And everybody's confused at what they're looking at. Dane Jones gets $40,000. Deshaun Watson gets a buttload of money thrown at him. And everybody's confused at what they're looking at. Even J.J. Watt tweeted out, MVP, winner. I think he's like 45-19. Like, what am I missing? Like, why is he not getting his money? What do you think about the Lamar Jackson situation?
I think there's too many old guys in the NFL that want their quarterbacks to look and talk a certain way. Mm-hmm. And it's sad because if you look at Deshaun Watson, right, he puts himself into this box, right, mm-hmm. where I'm in Clemson with Dabo, right, I'm going to say the right things in the media, I'm not going to put myself out there in public. But then he has a whole sexual assault issue, right?
I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, and listen, right. It was a bad situation, right? Uh-huh. But still, he gets paid. Mm-hmm. But Lamar, who never gets in trouble, nothing ever, he doesn't do anything, right? He hangs out in Pompano, doesn't do anything wrong, despite everything that happens in Pompano, nothing with him. Mm-hmm. No rumors, nothing, right? You don't drink and drive, right? Like, he ain't doing crime, right? Like, no failed drug test, nothing, right?
Right.
All because he takes a picture with Kodak, right? He's got tattoos, right? He braids his hair, and now the narrative is
flips in the end zone.
Flips in the end zone, right? He can't throw. Okay, well he's one of the most efficient passers in the NFL, right? Oh, he can't win. He wins all the time, right? He can't win in the playoffs. Then he goes and wins in the playoffs, right? Then now you don't want to pay him because he's got injury issues. Daniel Jones has had injury issues.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones has never won until this year.
Right.
And still went to the playoffs and struggled when he got to the playoffs, right? Like, we're not going to give the credit to Saquon, right? Like, and who's Lamar throwing the ball to? Right? Like Devin Duvernay? Like, what are you talking about, bro?
Tight end,
what are we talking? Yeah, his best player is a tight end, right?
Right.
Who's good, right? But like, that's all he's got. And I think that people just put Lamar into this box like he's not going to. He isn't for long term. Yeah. And I think that's wrong, man.
I think eventually he gets paid.
He's going to get paid by somebody.
Right.
He's going to get paid by somebody. It's just, why are the Ravens not doing it? Why are the Ravens? And why would teams come out and say, like, we're not interested?
What
you mean you're not interested? What you mean? Like, they just put here's what's crazy to me is, like, they just put the non-exclusive tag on him, right? Mm-hmm. So the non-exclusive franchise tag means you can sign him and all you got to give up is 2 first-round draft picks. Russell Wilson was 2 first-round draft picks in 2 seconds. Bronco country, let's ride.
What team's coming out saying?
Yeah. Come on, man. Like, look, Lamar is it, right? Like J.J. Watt, right? Is tweeting in support of him, right? Like, right. You see NFL guys in support of him. When Lamar was a rookie, like, his teammates were like, we ride for Lamar. Like, even when he has a bad game, like, we know what he is.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I got a different take on it. I think it gets a little deep. I think it gets a little deep, and it goes back to him and his mom at the draft, right? Sitting there, and remember that picture, and him telling me he was gonna make everybody pay and all of that in that picture. He doesn't have an agent. He has his mom, and I'm sure he has a team of people around him. I think sometimes the machine wants you to operate the way they want you to operate.
Fall in line.
Yeah, I think sometimes the machine wants you to say, "Hey, listen, we talk to agents. That's how we do business around here. And if you want to do it different, because he's going to get his money. they're just stringing it out, making news of it, making it seem like it's a string. But he's somewhere playing video games. You know what I'm saying?
He's not, like he's not doing interviews like complaining about it. You know, he's just like, hey, it is what it is. If they want me, they'll pay me. And
and it's because you got to understand. A lot of times when these kids get to this place, it's uncharted waters. They haven't sat down and negotiated with a billion. You know what I'm saying? With a billionaire, and it's almost like a game of poker. But it's going to end right for him. But I believe that it's the machine saying, hey, listen, man, we talk to agents. We deal with agents. That's how we deal because it's part of the system. Yeah, because it's part of the system. And I think this is them slapping them on the hand or making an example. Because it doesn't make sense. You can't say he doesn't win. You can't say he can't pass. He did nothing but win since he came in. I think we in the playoff, 2 or 3 times? Or he never won a Super Bowl.
Every year he's been healthy, he's made the playoffs.
Right.
Every year he's been healthy, he's made the playoffs.
So no, and then the Dolphins come out, I think, and said that they were interested.
But then there's a rumor out that Miami is waiting until after the start of the season, like the official start of the season. They're going to sign him to an offer sheet, and then they're going to send 2 future first-round picks for him. That there's been conversations for that.
Right, because
Stephen Ross doesn't want to get caught up in tampering again. Right. What happened with Tom Brady.
I hope so. I hope we do get him down here. But speaking of that, last year Tua had an awesome season, bro. Right? And we all saw the Tua story come in for Jalen Hurts and do all of this. But he's had a few concussions at the Dolphins. Do you think Tua should continue to play? Now that we're talking about filling the quarterback position that
It's tough, man. It's tough because, I mean, we have played football, right? Like we know, like, when you're in it, you're like, I'm hurt. It's part of the game, right? And when you're cleared to play, you're like, I'm good.
Right.
Until someone tells me I can't play anymore, then you continue to play. A perfect example for me is, remember Josh Witt?
Yeah.
From Miami, Cypress Bay. He was like a 4-star linebacker, right? So he came into Miami with concussion issues, and then got into a real bad car accident where it gave him like a 4th concussion. And from what I heard was like he was still having issues.
Right.
So that's my biggest fear for Tua is like, you've had those 3 documented concussions now.
Right.
What's going to happen on the 4th one? So do I want him to still play selfishly as a Dolphins fan? Of course, right? But it's something to consider, man. It's something that he's got a baby now. He's got a wife. So it's like you got to look at it from that lens. But if the doctors tell him he can play, then he should still play. But it's definitely going to be uncharted territories because we don't really see guys go through that many concussions, especially in a 1-year span, documented concussion. Because we know every play is like is virtually a concussion.
Right.
It's a small car crash that they say, right? Especially if you're a defensive lineman or something like that. Those guys come out with probably like 100 concussions, but it's something that it's tough.
I know it's a tough one. It has to be a tough one.
Because we don't know. We just it's like the brain is like the ocean. Like we just don't know enough.
And it seemed like it became easier. Like the last one was like, oh man, he got concussed from that. So I don't know. I just hope he do what's best for him and his family. I know it's a game that he loved playing, and that probably the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because the kids love playing it so much. A lot of people think that, oh, he got money, he could just do it. Life is not about money.
Tom Brady literally said, "I'm good with my family breaking up for 1 more year of this, man."
I'm gonna throw this ball around. Brown gone. Okay, Brown gone. I'm gonna throw this ball around one more time. Basically, I mean, it's something they love doing, man.
Yeah.
But all right, man. So you feel he should take?
I think stay 1 more year. Maybe sit out.
Maybe sit out this year. All right, Crib, man. I got some questions for you. Which one would you rock first? Would you rock the big red Mario boots or the big hat that everybody's been wearing?
I'm doing the hat because the hat. See, if I go to a party, right, I can say that the hat is funny, right? The boots are goofy. Okay, I'm not wearing them boots, man. Squeaking all around the floor. There's no way it's comfortable.
They squeak?
They have to. They have to squeak like a cartoon. It has to be. They are goofy. I can't. That's like the progression of easy to me. It's like, but the hat is funny, right? Like it's a topic of conversation. The boots. I'm
I don't know where the boots
you're trying to go too far with the whole fashion statement thing, man. Stick to dunks and let's keep it moving.
I don't know what rapper put the boots on us, man, but they need to do something to him because they had to be a rapper. and rappers rule the world. They set the. It
had to be Kanye. It had to be Kanye.
It had to be a rapper. Well, there you go, man. You going with the hat?
I'm going hat. What are you going?
I want the boots, man. I just think the boots look so weird, bro. Like
You're going boots?
Yeah. Listen, the boots just remind me of my childhood and playing video games so much, bro. I think I go with the boots.
All right, Wreck-It Ralph.
Josiah Trader, wide receiver, cornerback.
Cornerback's such an easy. It's so easy for me. Now listen, he's gonna go to college and he's gonna excel to me at either spot.
Right.
If you're asking me if he's a corner, though, I think he's the best corner in the country, and I don't think that there's a discussion about it. He is an elite defender. Because he'll come up and he'll hit. He has the best ball skills, maybe in the country, right? As a receiver. Mm-hmm. That's going to translate to the defensive side of the ball with ease. He knows the offensive game, which means he's going to have an understanding of route concepts from a defender standpoint. Right. Elite frame, like 6'1", 180 pounds already. Mm-hmm. I think it's so hard for a receiver to control the narrative, right? And I think if a kid has the opportunity to switch the defensive side of the ball, he should, right? Like I think I think if Brandon Ennis starts getting slept on at Ohio State receiver, he needs to be playing free safety.
You need to go safety.
That's just my opinion. I think if an offensive kid is not getting an opportunity and he has the ability to play defense, go do that. Now, if somebody tells JoJo, you're our number one receiver, you come in, right? If Miami or Florida State tell them, listen, you come in now and you're our number one receiver, then you go ahead and be a receiver. And you test it out, and if it doesn't work out, then you switch.
Right.
But he's a corner to me.
Straight corner. All right, got another one for you. Kyrie and Luka or KD and Booker?
See, this is personal to me because I'm a Celtics fan, right? And I am 100% going KD and Book, right? Not only do I think they're gonna finish better this year than the Mavs will, I just don't like Kyrie, man.
You don't like Kyrie?
I don't like Kyrie, bro. You can't leave the Celtics like that and ever have me root for you again. And the whole flat Earth thing, I don't worry about that. The whole COVID thing, like I don't worry about any of that. Like that doesn't faze me. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about he left. He told me he was staying, and he left me. All right, at the altar. All right, I was going to buy a Kyrie Irving jersey, and I don't even wear jerseys. Okay, I was like, I'm in. I'm here. And I thought he was gonna combine with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Not happening though. I'm going with KD, the best offensive player of all time.
KD?
The best and most talented offensive player ever in basketball.
Man, we ain't got enough time to get into that today. Okay, KD Booker. All right. All right. So Justin Jefferson or JaMarr Chase?
Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson?
I'm a production guy, man. If you're asking me who's like the better athlete of the two, right? Like who, if I had a draft, I would draft. I'm going JaMarr Chase. Right. But if you're asking me like NFL right now, how I'm ranking him, Justin Jefferson's the most prolific receiver at this point in his career, comparative to anybody in NFL history, and that includes Randy Moss. What?
It's been 2 years.
What? What you say? Dog. Justin Jefferson, Jay Jetta. That's it. You know.
I think he's the first Justin Jefferson we got. I think everybody always end up with JaMarr Chase. So Justin Jefferson, production.
I think people like to look at JaMarr Chase. He's a freak athlete, right? In college, he was a freak, right? He balled. But Justin Jefferson's like always been that under the radar guy, and came into the NFL and he stole it from Adam Thielen. Like he made the Vikings forget about Stephon Diggs. You know how hard that is to do? Like Stephon Diggs is a baller. And like you don't even remember Stephon Diggs as a Viking really.
And then Stephon Diggs don't even say anything. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So Justin Jefferson. All right, man, choose your character. We got Austin Simmons or we got our boy CJ as Shamad. Choose one.
You're Mortal Kombat me right now. There we go. Here we go. I got to choose my character. I'm going with the senior. I'm going CJ Bailey. Listen, I said it before, man. CJ Bailey deserves his flowers. Mm-hmm. He's been a 2-year starter. He's a 2-time state champion, right? Put up huge numbers this year. He's done it his entire life, right? If you ask Rod Mack,
his entire life, that's a good one.
A kid's lost like 5 games in his entire life.
That's a good one,
right? Like this kid went from playing as an offensive lineman to a quarterback, right? He doesn't fit the mold of what you're like. He's 6'6", 6'7", right? And typically when we talk about 6'6", 6'7" kids, we hype him up. With him, we talk about it like it's a detriment or something like that.
Right.
People say he's not accurate enough. He completes like 70% of his passes this year, right? People say he plays with elite talent his whole life. What did that elite talent do when they went away from CJ? I'm just saying, right? There's one consistent catalyst in that purple machine group. Right, there's one guy who continues to be the focus of that, right? Like the guy who continues to lead the charge. Because what did Shamad do the year before he was a starter?
Oh,
they lost in the state championship game. They lost in the state championship game, right? With the kid who was Division I quarterback, went to Howard, right? So CJ comes in, and immediately we're talking about them with the Centrals, the St. Thomases, all those people, right? And if you ask any of those kids who they want to play with, it's CJ. And Bullet 110% gets a ton of the credit for that and stuff like that.
Too, right?
But at the same time, the quarterback position is just different. And CJ has been the epitome of an elite quarterback in South Florida. He, in my opinion, if he wins another state title this year and they run the gauntlet, beating a Central, beating out-of-town teams, things like that, I think he's in the conversation for the greatest quarterback in South Florida. And I listen, people can get mad at me all they want. They got mad at me about saying Jeremiah Smith was the most talented receiver to play in South Florida. But listen, at the end of the day, right, I did the same thing for Lights Out. 3 state championships. Mm-hmm. That doesn't get done, right? He has won every step of the way. He's beat top teams. And if you want to look at one game against Bishop Gorman, then you're taking credit away from a kid who has a resume that is elite. What did he do against Miami Northwestern, right?
Yeah.
What did he do against a Dillard team with 20 Division I kids, right? What did he do in the state championship game, right? Every step of the way, CJ and guys like Lights Out have done it, right? And CJ is an elite player, man. And I think that the recruiters are sleeping on him too.
Right.
I think this recruiter, like a 4-star kid from South Florida who's 6'6", has 2 state championships, has done what he does, the frame that he has, the mobility that he's proven. He deserves more love than he gets, and I'm taking CJ.
All right, choose your character. You took CJ. All right, man, let's choose your character. You got Jeremiah Smith, who some saying may be the best wide receiver we ever seen come out of South Florida, when it's all said and done. But then if you start saying that, you get Andre Johnson. So Jeremiah Smith or Andre Johnson?
Going Jeremiah Smith.
Going Jeremiah Smith?
Hey, you ain't gonna hit me with this old head conversation about Andre. Listen, Andre Johnson's great. We know he is. He should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? And we know that he was a baller in high school. He's a baller at Miami. But Jeremiah Smith is the freak of all freaks. 6'3", 6'4", right? He just ran the 6th fastest time in the 110 hurdles in the country, right?
Yeah.
20 touchdowns last year, over 1,000 yards. Came to Shamad, immediately took over as the #1 receiver. Again, another kid from that Purple Machine group who was elite his entire life, despite having size 14 shoes at like 5'5", right? Like Jeremiah Smith is the best player in the country, and I don't think we've seen that from a receiver, maybe ever. So, what do you got? What's your argument?
I mean, Jeremiah Smith, I've said it. I think he may eventually end up being the greatest we've ever seen because I've seen his work ethic when he was a little scrawny kid. You know what I'm saying? And he sprouts into the 6'2", 6'3" frame, and it's like holy crap to go with what I've seen him, his tools and everything that he built up to. But Andre Johnson, the only reason I can't say Jeremiah now is because Andre Johnson, we actually saw his body of work, and it's hard to go against that when Jeremiah is potential. You know what I'm saying? From what he may do.
Yeah.
So I would have to go with Andre Johnson. Ask me at the end of the season, it may be different. You know what I'm saying?
What about high school? What about high school though?
I would have to go with Andre Johnson. I think it's hard to deny what your eyes seen. I think JaMarr has one more year left, and we're gonna have to see him his last year and see what he does. Like you said, it starts off at pace. It didn't start off. You know what I'm saying? As soon as he got to Shamad, he caught on fire. Goddamn, soon, the first game, and it's been up since then. But as of now, I would have to go Andre Johnson. Listen, man, a game that should have happened last year is going to happen this year. It was just at night. Somebody leaked it like early last week, and everybody was like, Coach Rose was like, we just got out of a meeting. I ain't hear nothing about that, you know what I'm saying? But then it actually comes out that Shamad will face Miami Central this year. National, you know what I'm saying? National implications, huge game. Not just some local rivalry we have. Huge game. How do you think that game, how do you think that turned out? Because Shamad has their team. Edwin Joseph left, a couple other people left, but those guys come back. And then you have Central, who's retooling, who retools every year. How do you think that go? How do you think that game go?
I don't know, man. I do not know. I can't even give you a prediction on that right now. I think it's going to be an incredible game. Yeah. Right? Same way we watched American Heritage versus Shamad last year. Yeah. Right?
Oh, no, hell no. We ain't doing this. Let's do this. Listen, let's be real. Central lost.
So let's break it down.
Yeah.
Let's break it down, right?
Right.
Central brings back an elite core of young kids. Right. An elite core of young kids. Nicholas McCall turned it up last year, right? Running back, averaged like 100 yards per game, right? So he's the next great running back for Miami Central. You got Luane McCoy, who's the best skill position player in Dade County. Right. You got an offensive line, comes back, every single starter comes back on their offensive line. Defensive line is once again loaded. You had two kids come back, and D'Angelo Thompson, Randy Adarica. Then you add Man and Armando Blunt. Right. You have the best linebacker core in Dade County, and Lamar Smith, Division I offers. Vincent Shavers comes in from Pace, who's one of the top 25 linebackers in the country. And you got Ezekiel Marcelin, EJ, who's a top 100 type player in the 2025 class, right? Then at DB, right, you got Amari Wallace, who's a top kid, right? You got Sekou Smith, who's going to be a star, right? And then at Shamad, we know what Shamad has, right? Shamad is loaded as well, right? Shamad has CJ, who I just said has the potential to be one of the greatest players we've seen in South Florida history. Bullet, North Carolina commit run. North Carolina don't come down here for kids. They came down here to get a running back. They got running backs in North Carolina. They want a Bullet. Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader, Kamari Williams, who just comes like the best receiving core in the country, right? Then listen, we'll get to the weakness at another. Right? That's what I'm going to touch on next, right? Right. Defensive line, elite defensive line. Zach Crothers, 14.5 sacks last year. They had Terrell Green, right? They already had a couple of kids that were really good players. Linebacker-wise, really good. 2 Division I kids. DB group, led by Zaquan Patterson, CJ Ewald, a bunch of other D1 type kids, group of 5. The only thing that's a question for me is the Shamad offensive line, and the Miami Central quarterback situation. Right. Depending on how those two things play out, that's what's going to make it interesting, because that Central D-line, monsters, right? Like the Monstars from Space Jam, that's what they look like, right? And then if that offensive line, if it's not right, because remember last year it was elite. You had the 3 studs, right? And then you had solid players on the end, but they had their core in the middle of their trenches. Right. We got to see how that transitions, right? Lights out, 3-time state champion, one of the greatest players we've seen in Dade County history. Like I said before, it's hard to fill those shoes. Yeah, I don't know if you replace the lights out. I mean, it's not replacing.
Yeah, but, I mean, you don't replace the lights out. Lights out with 5 years varsity started playing when he was in 8th grade. You don't really replace the lights out, but Central is retooling. I mean, you just broke it down. Central is retooling, and that game may be a lot closer than people may think. A lot of people believe that Central should have caught them last year when they had everybody. They had Bane, they had Lights Out. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people feel that Central should have caught them last year, but Central's retooling, and that defense is gonna be nasty. I think it's gonna be a good game.
AJ is one of the best offensive coordinators.
I think he's one of the best minds we have in football down here.
And then we know what Rowe can do. We know what Jube and that defensive staff does, right? Aaron Strumsky is a new DC over at Shamad. Right. He was a really good defense coordinator at Western. And we know Jones and Jube, they're just 2 elite coaches, man. Yeah. Like, these are guys that deserve national recognition. and they've gotten it in the past year or two, and
Yeah.
it's going to be a battle of two forces.
Whatever Central lost, I think Jube is such an influential motivator. When you're talking about getting kids to run through a wall for you and all that stuff, I think Jube has mastered the science of getting kids to play hard for him. Which at the end of the day, kids buying into what you do is probably what a good coach is, to be honest with you. So yeah, man, we're all looking forward to seeing that one. That's gonna be a huge one going down next year, man, and we'll definitely be in the house.
You got a team?
Huh?
You got
A pick?
a prediction?
No, I'll get back with you on that one. Because Central is not finished. You know what I'm saying? They're not finished, and we will have to see what the final rosters look like. But we talk about something now like they're not bringing in kids. When you win, you bring in kids. Yeah, so we'll see what the final rosters look like, and then I'll get back with you on that one.
We'll get back.
Coaches spotlight, man. Get two coaches. Big up some coaches, man. I don't think we talked about the coaches enough, bro. If you had to big up a coach this week, man, give him some love. Who you giving love to?
Max Edwards, former Miami Northwestern head coach. You know, and we all have our opinions on how things might have went down, but overall, just one of the greatest coaches in the history of Dade County, and he ain't finished.
Right.
He ain't finished, but I think in a time where people aren't so much giving him his praise as much as they probably should, I want to talk about that, and I don't even know him personally, but I just have a respect for what he did. During the time I was covering Northwestern over the last few years, and the time that I was a high school coach.
Right. We did back to back.
Back to back, right? Did it a year where Carroll City was the greatest team ever. People were talking about, right? Like, greatest team ever, right? And then he's 5-5,
right.
And then finishes the year 10-5, wins the state championship with Tuda. So, I got to give him his flowers, man.
Yeah, I was one of the ones talking about that Carroll City team this year. Look, I'm gonna go out and do something a little different. I'm gonna go with Jason Taylor. We've been privy to watch Jason Taylor on the sideline coaching kids. A Hall of Famer that we all watch with the Miami Dolphins, make our Sundays better, happier, picking off interceptions and running back for the Dolphins. Comes down and I watched him coach youth football. His kids on youth football. I've watched him go all the way up to high school at St. Thomas Aquinas, who's now at the University of Miami. Mm-hmm. I was telling people, listen, Jason Taylor is a Hall of Famer, nice looking dude, a model, and you think he's this super rock star, right? When he coaches those kids, he is more involved than anybody you can think of. He gets enthusiastic. He gets those kids to play for him. Yesterday, they asked Lance, the new Miami Hurricane defensive coordinator, hey, what's your take on JT? Because he just got the defensive line job. He just got promoted to the defensive line job at Miami. And he says, whoa, he's good. He basically said he won't be here long. He's going to the pros. So I'll tip my hat to JT, man, who played in the league, probably filthy rich, don't have to coach, you know what I'm saying? Don't have to be out here.
He's an analyst for the Dolphins. Right.
Right. He's just out here for the love, and when he gets involved, he gets involved. He goes all in. So I'm gonna tip my hat to JT, man. Coach Max, JT, man. Footballville. Listen, man, y'all make sure y'all like, share. If you want to come to a villain, the link is down there somewhere. Footballville, 6 states right now. It's going to be 16 one day. Shout out to the crib, Rivals. Go check out his top 50, 222. So you're going to do 224 or 222?
I'm no 2024. I ain't touching that. We got the Dave vs. Broward game to worry about. We ain't doing that. I got the top 25 kids coming out soon. We also have a bunch of great content on Canes County coming out for our Rivals site, miami.rivals.com.
Yeah.
Please check that out. We got a great deal that ends today. $24 for your first year of access to Canes County. Tap in.
How many days a month? $2
a month. That's some sense a day. You spend more on coffee.
$2 a month, man.
That's a couple bowls at Chipotle.
Listen, y'all make sure y'all like, share, man. Go follow the crib on Instagram. We out here.